So,
Here at
Ash, why are
99.
we here today?
Here to talk about an album.
How long has this album been in the making?
So it's funny. The short answer is since 2014.
That's the
That
short
hurts
answer?
to
What's the
say.
long answer?
That's been a long time.
Yeah,
dude.
I was gonna say, what's the
Long answer is so. Well, I sat down with Chloe the other night, and we were talking about it a little bit. We're talking about how there's been a lot of intervention, some divine, but no, it since probably 2014 or so. Pretty much as soon as I started playing guitar, I started writing songs, and not long after, there was some interest in putting them all together in a recorded.
I would say I'm glad it's happened this way, because where these songs are now versus where they were back then, I mean, I think they've grown to mean more to you. You've refined them. You've refined your style, your sound, everything you've worked on. I mean, tell me what you think. I think it's easy for me to say that a lot of them are in their best form.
Yeah, and what I kind of feel like is their final form in the iteration of a solo artist, right? So hearing them now and in, what I would say all their glory. Yeah, call it divine intervention or whatever the case may be. That first album of songs, there's not a single one of those on this album. So, I've improved drastically as a songwriter, as a singer, as a guitarist. I had the same kind of stuff to say back then, but now I'm much better at saying it, and so I'm very proud of what I've managed to put together here, and now headed into having a full band behind this stuff. This is kind of what feels like the last hurrah before the transition into a full band sound, and I didn't want to move to that without paying homage to 10, 11 years worth of grinding it out with just an acoustic guitar.
Tell every time I would hear, we would play the song and then we'd play it a week or two later and it would be something else. And I was like, oh, you found something else here. And then when you played it with a band, it became another thing. Like it became a thing where it was like, oh, well, he's figured it out with people now. And like, there's a spot for me to play here. There's a spot for everything to go. He's kind of filling it out and where it was not. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I mean, it really is. Like it's been awesome.
And it is a very interesting like difference in tonality from you kind of stripped down raw and almost like your Eddie Vedder feel where it's just you alone and you're playing and then you hear something that's a full band kind of full vibrant. Well, the thing that I really appreciate about Ash's kind of ideation and style of storytelling is, again, I mean, even back to that day, I mean, you came in, you played, I think you played River, you played Geraldine,
Play
and
Outside.
this was really this was my first kind of exposure to your stories and your music and your kind of songwriting. And for me, instantly, I was like, okay, this guy, literally just went through something that most people would be like, yep, no, we're canceling the filming day. Sorry, guys. Like, I got to stay home. I got stuff going on. And I think a lot of your music and a lot of your lyrics come from very personal and I think sometimes like very, I won't say traumatic, but very heavy moments in life. Geraldine, about your grandmother and about her passing. And again, for whatever reason, call it fate, call it serendipity, I had lost my mother recently and going through a separation myself and ending a marriage. A lot of your music and a lot of your kind of storylines were very kind of mirror of I think things that everyone in life goes through. And the work we've been doing on the track Little Life and the music video for it, I joked with Ash because when he mentioned that he wanted to record a music video for it, and we started talking about the concept behind the visual narrative of it, I was like, I'm probably your like number one fan on Apple Music, because literally anytime I get in the car to go somewhere, I'm playing this song on repeat, because I'm trying to get into your head and think about it from a visual storytelling standpoint of what do these words mean when I hear them.
I wrote the entire body of lyrics in less than 5 minutes, just laying there in bed, and it was both retrospective in the sense that I was really looking back at the line. I stop and try to figure out just how far we've come. There was a lot of retrospectiveness in not just my life, but really in the creation of my family. My daughters are 2 and 3 right now, and it feels like yesterday that I met my wife. And things moved so fast that there was hardly time to just sit and appreciate what was happening, and how and the miracles that were happening all around us. We used to joke that there was just manna falling from the sky, but all the crazy things that those first few years brought, and to be where we are now, and then laying in this house when at some points we were selling off all our possessions to be able to get in somewhere, and now laying in this beautiful house with my girls sleeping away in their own room, and that retrospection and then introspection of how can I convey this? How do I tell people about this without talking for 45 minutes? Because I will. But the song that speaks the most to me, that I think captures a lot of this, is The Mess I Will Leave. That song, for me, it tells a story, one of the hardest, I'll call it hardest weeks of my life. And it grew out of one moment, and to keep it, there, I don't want to spoil. It's up. That's up. You can stream that as a single, but that moment was me looking at everything that I'd ever wished for. So, number 3 was like, I want to tour like as a roadie, right? I grew up, my dad was a roadie. That was like the third best thing, and was a goal. And I still work concerts, but I started when I was really young. I got my first check for it when I was like 15, but I was still hanging out around there years prior, going with my dad, just trying to spend time with him and be with him as he was working all the time. And so that's always been a passion and a goal, right? And then my second is to do music, right? I won't sit here and say that that's the number one thing for me. It's close, but it's not it. Having a family, meeting a wife that could put up with my shenanigans, and having the privilege to raise children, was really always like, felt like that was the hardest thing to obtain. That was going to be the thing that it could never happen. And that would be the most devastating thing, right? With them, if I never played another note, I would still live a fulfilled life. They absolutely are everything to me. So The Mess I Will Leave was really trying to capture that, but capturing a time when I almost lost every bit of that. And sitting and looking at, I kept thinking, and where the title came from was, I've got this child that's going to come into the world, and I've already made an incredible mess of things, and she'll be my legacy for this, and and the uphill battle that I have set before her now, by not necessarily any fault of anyone's, just unfortunate circumstances and in a hard time in life. You know, the looking at how fast I had gained all those things. You know, I met my wife. I'm being kind of vague, but you know, I met my wife, and 3 months later we were moving down to Concord, and a month after that we had our first kid on the way. And by the end of the year, we got married, and Willow was born. It was incredible. But the mess I will leave was that moment where I had been on the road a bunch, and my wife was going through all kinds of transitions with this being her first kid, and coming to a new place with a guy she hadn't been with all that long, who was now just on the road all the time, capturing that number 3 goal, right? And it all started to add up to too much. And in that moment, I almost lost the most important thing in my life. And I still think about that often. And The Mess I Will Leave is that moment. And even the album cover tries to pay respect to that, because I sat on a hotel bed in the dark. I looked out the window at Nashville, and I wrote those lyrics. I wrote this song, and all the fears of being a father, all the fears of losing everything that I'd gone after, everything came out in that moment. And that's a thing that, it's a moment that it was so dark, but looking back, I am so proud of that moment, because even at its darkest point, I picked my head up, and I fought for everything that I have now. And so The Mess I Will Leave captures that.
Dude, I'm nothing but guessing now. I'm nothing of value now. When you sing that, I'm like, dude, we have literally, I don't know what person on this earth hasn't felt that. Like that like when you first wrote, I don't know, I've said it already, so I'm probably like, somebody's going to rewind the thing and go like, oh, you've already said that. But that was one of the things. When you were on the road and you kind of came back with a bunch of songs and a bunch of things, I was like, this is different. I think that was kind of one of those moments. And that song, yeah, I mean, just, I'm nothing but guessing now. I'm nothing of value now. I'm like, Jesus. I was like, that's heavy as hell. And I feel like everybody's felt valueless. They felt like, what am I here for? Why am I here? Like, but I'm just guessing. What's going on? I don't know.
And now you have her singing on that song.
Yeah.
And the parallel of her side of I have nothing of value now. That's the same sense of loss of that parallel of that storybook.
And that's, so Chloe doesn't perform. She never has. She sings around the house, and she's never recorded or anything. And she was singing that song so much, and I just happened to be working on it in the studio. It had, I had largely shelved that song in my performances too, because like I played it for a little bit, but it was fast, and it was like I sang it higher. It was hard to keep up with. Vocally, it was just hard to perform it. And I felt like, as much as I liked the lyrics and loved the message, it just something wasn't jiving, and so I wasn't playing it. And one night sitting here, it was raining, and we've got a metal roof on our house. It's a 125-year-old house, so big old front porch. It was just pouring. We had just moved in here, really. And I walked outside to the porch with my guitar, and I played a bunch of songs, but I played The Mess I Will Leave. And when I played it so, like, just from memory, the lyrics weren't anywhere around me. And I played it so slowly and so quietly, because I didn't want to wake the kids up upstairs, and I didn't want to I wanted to capture the rain. I was recording it on my phone. And when I finished, I'd done things with it that I'd never done. I added falsetto portions, and I added all these moments. And I told Chloe, I said, I've completely redone The Mess I Will Leave. And she was like, oh, yeah. And then when she heard it, she was like, yeah, absolutely. And so hearing her sing it around the house, I told her, I said, let's get you in. Let's get you in the studio. And she was kind of, and then finally I convinced her, and she sang it a few times, and she looked at me, she said, I can do that better. And she just belted it. And yeah, it was amazing to see that song that almost, that illustrated the moment that we were at our most tenuous. And then to see her singing it in our home, in the studio that I put together in here, singing those words that I cried over was just, magical. So,
is there anything you haven't shared with us in this interview about the album, about your work putting it together, that you want people to know, hear about?
That's such a good question. That's like that last little bit, trying to squeeze it out.
So, I think if I was going to, stress anything, two things. I hope that this album is received with sincerity. I've poured everything that I have into writing these songs, and I hope that it's received with the sincerity that I deliver the lines. And, I think that I want people to know that it is by far one of my proudest achievements to finally see it coming out. That would probably be the other thing, right? It kind of goes hand in hand with the first, but one of the most excited I've been about things. Like, I've never been this excited, and except for my kids, and that one time I got a PlayStation for Christmas. But I'm sitting here like a kid before Christmas, just ready. And I know that, it's going to be a slow build for this album. I understand releasing it, that it's just the start. I'm not releasing it to millions of fans. I'm releasing it to an empty room. I'm putting a sign on the door that says, please come in. And what it feels like as I put this music out here, I feel like finally I'm not going to lose a song. I'm not going to lose that moment. It's there. Can't take it away now. It's out there. It's going to be heard. And I can't wait. Yeah.
Have you said your name and what this album's called at any point during this conversation?
Not one time. My name is Ashler Sargent, and the album that I'm releasing is The Mess I Will Leave. It's underneath the band Assurgent. So, Assurgent's first album, The Mess I Will Leave.
Every once in a while